Good morning. It is finally cooling down around here. I'm so excited. Like so excited. I let the chickens out. They're having a good old time. Check their food and water, and I'm going to let our other chickens out. We are in the process. We are trying to get them used to each other before we actually full on combine them, just so there's not as much fighting. But they're happy. Yeah, but that's a process, so we're kind of working on it slowly but surely. I'm gonna let our two older girls out and let them kind of commingle. All of our chickens out, adventuring. I also need to get down. We have 2 pear trees over there, and I need to get down and see if they're ready to pick. There's a couple that are falling off already, but there's a cool trick to tell if they're ready to harvest or not. These are our 2 older girls. We have a barred rock and an Americana here. We get a light brown egg out of this one, and then a really pretty bluish green out of that one. I'm sitting here just drinking a little probiotic drink. I covered it on Instagram a little bit. I took a little bit of time off just from filming and editing. I wasn't feeling very well. I have a couple chronic health issues that flare up every once in a while, and I was getting pretty stressed out, and that kind of kicked it off a little bit. I have issues with my eyes, and it affects my spine. I get a lot of really bad headaches, so I just kind of took a little bit of a break. Look at these girls. Hi, buddy. Gotta see the other coop. I'll take you guys down and show you my little trick to see if pears are ready to harvest or not. These are our 2 pear trees. My husband actually put a camera out here the other day, and we were seeing a lot of deer down here. So there were a lot more down here on the ground, but they are gone. So the trick for these pears, you want to take the pear and you want to turn it, and if it snaps easily, that means it's ready to harvest. And then pears, you don't want to let them sit on the tree until they are fully ripe, because they'll start to actually rot from the inside out. If your pears are, see, that one's not ready because it didn't snap right away. See, that one's ready?
Yeah.
And you want to let them sit on the counter. Thank you, babe. And they can ripen on the counter. Here's some are actually rotting already. Depending on what temperature they're at, you can actually store them longer, and then when you want them to ripen, you just kind of like sit them out, let them warm up, and you can even put them in a brown paper bag and they'll ripen even faster. So I'm gonna take these pears in and get them sitting on our counter to start to ripen. We're back inside. I'm going to also make some bread today, I think. I'll show you guys my no-knead bread recipe. This bread recipe, it takes maybe 2 minutes to get all the ingredients together, and then you let it sit for 3 hours, form it, and then just throw it in a Dutch oven. It's the easiest bread recipe you'll ever make. All you have to do is just mix the ingredients together and let them sit. So I'll show you guys that too. I got this elderberry hibiscus tea on clearance, so I think we're gonna make some of this and get ourselves a little toasty. Pretty good. All right, guys, here is the no-knead bread recipe. We're gonna start with 1.5 cups of hot water. You don't want it hot enough that it's gonna kill your yeast, but you want it nice and toasty warm. And then we're gonna get 2 teaspoons of yeast here. Just sprinkle that in. And now I buy this in bulk on Amazon, and I keep a little jar in my fridge, and then I have some in the freezer as well. I'm gonna let that sit a little bit, let that yeast activate. I like to do about a teaspoon of salt. And pop this bad boy on our scale here, zero it out. Good. Now we want 450 grams of flour. Close enough. Now we'll take it off of our scale here so we don't damage it. I see a lot of people mixing their bread dough or mixing anything on their scale. And I don't like to do that because I think that there's a risk of damaging your scale. But now, so we have our wet and our dry here. And honestly, all you have to do is just incorporate them. And the nice thing about this recipe is it is no knead. So what you would normally do is mix this up, let it sit for a little bit, and then flip it out on your counter and knead it for like 10 minutes, depending on your recipe, what you're making. But this is what we're gonna do here. You can see how long it's taken to get to this point. All of the wet ingredients and the dry ingredients are incorporated, and you're left with this. So I'm just gonna try and get as much as I can off of here. And then I'm gonna wash that for later. But this, I'm just gonna put our little lid on here. It's clean, I swear. It's just messed up, like watermarks and stuff. So now that is sitting for 2 to 3 hours. We'll check back on it at the 2 hour mark. You want it to be bubbly with like kind of little bubbles on top. You want it to at least have doubled inside. Close to that 2 to 3 hour mark. I usually like closer to 3. I'll come back and preheat my oven, and we want it preheated to 450. All right, guys, it has been 2.5 hours. I think we're gonna leave it at this. This is kind of what you want to see. A little jiggly, a little bubbly. It's just getting late in the day, and I want to throw this in the oven. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to flip this out onto my counter after I put some flour down. And before I do any of that, I'm getting my parchment paper. I'm setting out a nice little square here because we're going to flip this over onto that to put it in our Dutch oven. So the tools here, I have a dough scraper. I have my spatula again. And I'm going to get some flour over here. So the nice thing about this, we're gonna take this dough here, scrape the sides, and just plop it down here on our floured surface. Alright, put this in a sink. And now we have our dough scraper here. All you do is you fold it. That flour is keeping it from sticking too badly. You need to do like 5 or 6. This side one more time. So then you're left with this, and then I'm going to scrape under it and just flip it over onto our parchment paper here. So now that we have this, I'm just gonna scrape under here and flip it over here. And that's what we have, and I'm putting this right in our Dutch oven. It's in. I just put the whole thing in, put the lid back on, and in for 30. Now we are taking the lid off, and we're gonna put it back in for 7 minutes. I say 5 to 10, but I prefer 7. Don't judge my oven. And just like that, you get this beauty. Alright guys, now that the bread's done, I'm gonna head to bed. If you liked this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And we'll see you next time. Bye!